So essentially, what we're looking for is essentially customers obviously moving to S4HANA, which we're well aware of. And we're going to give you some tips around what we can see in the advice that we're providing to customers currently. So what I'm going to cover off is essentially looking at the understanding of an S4HANA transformation. What are the parameters and what's the key areas of scope that you need to be considered? What's the transformation approach and the scenarios that we've seen when in our advice to customers? And of recent times, an update on all the analytical tools that are available in that early stage of the activate, discover phase. So at Emphasis, we have an 8-stage process for to advise customers to understand what they need to do when they're moving to S4. The first part is obviously, familiarization. Well, a lot of customers will have this over time. There still needs to be like a formal stage to understand what advantages that they're gaining from S4HANA. In terms of internal, the engagement within their own internal company with the business, sign in to the project. And also, because SAP is a partner-led environment, the understanding that customers may have an AMS type partner, but they also need to understand what's the opportunities for partners and the advantages of using partners external to that AMS partner, for instance. The initial assessment, essentially, customers can consider, and we'll see that in the tools in a minute, can consider some rectification work that can be done even before a transformation. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. From a migration viewpoint, they also need to be able to assess what type of migration that they will undertake. And I'll show that in a slide in a minute. And also, a lot of customers are on-prem, some on private cloud, some on hosted cloud, but there's also some options around moving to a public cloud, which has developed with SAP over the last 6-7 years. And it's not obvious, but managing change, engaging with the business, going back to that point at the start around understanding the internal company, essentially engaging with the business and taking the transformation both with business ownership and also tech ownership. And the innovation roadmap. So essentially, what are the opportunities, not only from the transformation from day one, but also day N after the implementation. And finalization of business processes, essentially the tools that are available today to essentially assess the business processes and to reorganize them and create automation and areas of advantage for the customer. So what we're seeing is obviously SAP are also looking at net new customers and moving to S4. But SAP customers also have that choice. With the 2027 deadline, they're looking at their business cases and they're considering whether or not they would go to alternative solution. It's not that easy, we all know that. But there is some consideration, and obviously, we're on our toes to help those SAP customers to move to S4. And in relation to S4, then obviously there's the on-prem, the private cloud and the public cloud options. So I've got a star here, so you can pay attention to this one. So the transformation approach. So as I said, there's a 3-step process. There's the early stages before in the BAU phase where you can look at your archiving options, you're looking at CVI, customer vendor integration, and you look at your unused users and your unused objects. And that can be highlighted within the tools I'll talk to you about in a minute. The second phase is essentially the migration. Customers, a lot of tech customer, IT-driven solutions are looking at brown or just rarely conversions. There's a justification to move, where customers have a lot of old customization to restart again. There's also the selective data transition where there's a few partners that are endorsed by SAP, essentially to create a shell and selectively bring across data to reflect the requirements of the customer. And post-implementation, then there's the post-implementation phase. And we'll talk a little bit later about the roadmap that SAP provides for customers going forward in future releases. So where are we at? So while we're looking at S4HANA fit to customer, we need to take a step back. CIOs need to understand the business strategy of the organization. Well, what are the pressures within the economy? what's the plans for the company with mergers, acquisitions, and what's the focus on automation. Obviously, that helps build the CIO's IT strategy, and obviously we're all moving down a clean core path, where a cloud platform will provide some level of that extensibility or customization. And then, as I said, the S/4HANA roadmap going forward, in terms of not only the roadmap that you're buying into from SAP, but the opportunities going forward that SAP is planning in future releases. So I'll move on to the tools. For customers that are engaging with SAP, there's probably two key tools that they'll be engaged with: the SAP Readiness Assessment, which essentially provides a simplification list for customers to understand the changes that need to be made to objects, and that's related to SAP notes. There's also the Digital Discovery Assessment, which essentially allows the customer to get a guide from SAP around whether or not they should be considering private or public cloud editions. And in terms of mapping to the ERP and also the business best practices that SAP has. Two recent acquisitions of SAP in the last 2 or 3 years, and we'll see that within RISE, that SAP is heavily promoting SAP Signavio. And that allows, I'll go to the last point here, because for customers that allows them to have a insights discovery edition assessment free of charge. And the final SAP acquisition over the last 3 or 4 months, essentially LeanIX, which allows actually a portfolio management approach to assessing customers, both SAP and non-SAP customers, and provides them with an architecture, a roadmap, and a milestone and a plan in an AI generated by AI. At Emphasis, we actually have several tools that we've successfully used with customers. The UDO tool actually allows customers who have a PI, PO investments and wish to document those PI, PO integrations. This can be done in a matter of 2 or 3 days with the UDO tool. And we understand some partners actually have put quite large estimates together to do this. So the UDO tool has been quite beneficial for customers to get a very quick point of view around their integrations within PIPO, particularly as it's being moved over to BTP. And one of our key points within the Activate methodology in that discovery phase is we have an AI tool which allows us to assess customers' environments and provide them with the guidance. And this K-Turn tool, which we use, has actually been recognised by SAP as a success story. And the advantages of this is that in a matter of 4 to 6 weeks, we can be engaged with the customer. In about 2 weeks, we can run an assessment of the customer's environment and produces a 360-degree review across the landscape, the custom objects, and the business processes. And essentially provides a dashboard to the customer and also detailed spreadsheets. And the kicker at the end of it is that it provides its own highline project plan and effort estimates for the customer. It covers both the timeline and also the breakdown of the project team. And what Emphasis do is we sanitize that project plan a little bit to provide that some real life experience to the AI generator. And it's actually quite impressive to see that after that assessment that we run.